there are so many interesting research that has been done on Addis Ababa, even though it's not as compared to Nairobi or Accra, it's not that much. Many research have been done on Addis Ababa, but there are so many interesting research on different dimensions of urbanization and urban development in Addis Ababa. They give a good input, to rethink how we plan or how we develop our cities. And similarly, there are also interesting initiatives done by different development partners and different organizations on, building a resilient economy, on encouraging pedestrian and non-motorized transport strategies. And there are different, development strategies, development recommendations provided by, evidence-based strategies and policy recommendations that can be useful, to do things differently. Addis Ababa is lagging behind in terms of, social movements, territorial movements. There is weak organization of slum dwellers or street hawkers because of, obviously because of the political context. So the fact that, there are no actively engaging mobilized groups, have perpetuated the more, top-down and authoritarian urban development in Addis Ababa and in other Ethiopian cities. Addis Ababa, especially the city government and the federal government, have a huge capacity in implementing development interventions, even though, some of them might be misguided, some of them might have so many problems, but the state capacity is very impressive and a good foundation to build upon. We can think of 4 basic challenges that faces the majority of Addis Ababa. The first one is the skyrocketing living standard, or the huge inflation of commodities or living expense in general in Addis Ababa. Over the last 15 to 16 years, the state has been investing massively, but agricultural productivity and manufacturing productivity didn't increase with the increase in demand that resulted in huge inflation, double-digit inflation. So many urban dwellers are falling into, below the poverty line because of the increasing living expenses. The second challenge is there is huge unemployment, particularly of the youth. Almost 1/4 of the urban youth in Addis Ababa is unemployed. Especially recently with the expansion of education, most of these urban youth are educated, which are capable to contribute positively to the national and city development, but they are still idle. And the other very critical challenge of Addis Ababa is housing and informality. Almost 70 to 80% of Addis Ababa is estimated to be, slum or informal settlement, whereby the houses are very dilapidated, poor service, sanitation, which is a very difficult issue or challenging issue that faces many urban dwellers. In one of my research, I found out that one toilet being shared by more than 60 households. So this kind of things is very common in Addis Ababa. And together with that, there is a huge water shortage in all parts of Addis Ababa, even in middle income and higher income settlements. But the burden is much more higher on informal settlements or slum settlements because they don't have, proper storage facilities. Because there is a constant water interruption. In relation to this, the informality and the widespread slum settlement, flooding and other environmental and health vulnerabilities is also, it affects so many of these slum dwellers. The fourth major critical challenge is there is a high level of traffic accidents. Addis Ababa is the lowest in terms of per capita car ownership, uh, probably 2 cars for 1,000 people or so. But in terms of traffic accidents, Addis Ababa is one of the highest in the world. More than one person dies of traffic accident every day. And this is related with the way our infrastructure has been built. It's mainly focused on vehicular transport. It's mainly focused on motorized transport. The government have invested massively on expanding road infrastructure, but there was less investment on mass transit. Addis Ababa, since its establishment, the residents of Addis Ababa hasn't been, administrating themselves, and mostly Addis Ababans are governed by people that they haven't elected. So to address those urban challenges, it's important to enhance, representation of Addis Ababans in different levels, not only at the city level, but also at the sub-city level, at the district level, at the local level. And together with this, together ensuring representation, it's also important to allow more social mobilizations. The surrounding Oromia region has constitutionally have a special interest, in Addis Ababa, but the details of that special interest has not been solved or has not been, specified in proclamation. So it have created problem of, coordinating metropolitan development, for example, for providing, transport, for providing landfill sites, for providing waste treatment, and so on. So it's important, to amicably solve the relations between the two administrations so that to make it easier to provide services. Most of the planners that I talk to, or urban professionals or city managers, they have this urban modernity or modern city model that they think of. A city with skyscrapers, a city with shopping malls and so on. This planned Western city. So we need to rethink that kind of urban model is not going to work. Has been tried. It's important to revise the curriculum so that our planners and other urban professionals to learn from the people, to learn how to be a good facilitators of people's needs, to rethink how instead of imposing urban models, to enable city residents, the urban poor in the slums, the urban poor in the informal sectors, to help them design and implement, their suggestion or their idea of what works better in addressing the challenges that they face every day. One of the things that I see African Cities Research could play is the first one is, undertaking much more political analysis research to understand urban problems in Addis Ababa. It's important to understand the obstacles, the political obstacles, to bring those changes. So in that regard, the expertise and the various consortium members that ACRC have, could help in that regard in partnership with, very qualified and competent Ethiopian researchers, which are based in Addis Ababa. And the second important thing that African Cities Research Consortium could play and addressing this urban challenge is facilitating people-to-people, community-to-community learning, to facilitate, to catalyze, social mobilization in Addis Ababa, and also facilitating, a conversation between the government and between, individuals and organizations engaged in urban development